What are the real effects when the seller pays the buyer's agent? There's a practice in the real estate industry that has had a significant impact on house prices. Unfortunately, this impact has allowed real estate agents to engage in a conflict of interest, which is hard to believe, especially in an industry that brags about honesty and integrity. But before we dive into the details, let's take a quick look at what home sellers and home buyers are actually trying to achieve. Sellers want to get as much for their home as possible, while buyers want to find a home at the most favorable price possible. And while both naturally want different outcomes, the one thing they are counting on is their agents conducting themselves with high standards and morals. That means sticking to the strong ethical rules outlined by the respective associations, brokerages, and training, putting their clients' interests first, and staying away from any situations where their own interests might get in the way. Basically, no conflicts of interest. During the frenzied years of 2021, 2022, and 2023, when interest rates were extremely low and house prices skyrocketed, a significant number of buyers were told by their agents to submit offers without home inspection and home appraisal contingencies in order to make their bids more competitive, which was quite the opposite of the normal real estate process. This gesture effectively took away the buyer's ability to negotiate, which resulted in them buying the home as is, a condition which came with potential financial repercussions. So this really begs three questions. Why would a buyer's agent, someone you're trusting, ever advise you to skip these crucial steps like identifying hidden problems, potential safety concerns, and items that simply needed to be repaired, and forgo any financial participation from the seller? Why would the seller's agent even consider encouraging their client to put buyers at a disadvantage? And the biggest question, why would such a practice be allowed in the first place? But once that suggestion was made to the buyer, the agent created a conflict of interest, resulting in an unfortunate and unexpected breach of trust. Once the buyer's agent made the official offer on behalf of their client, that agent's priorities changed. They no longer had their client's best interest. Instead, their focus shifted towards getting the deal done for the seller and their agent. And the proof is in the seller's closing statement. Upon the close of sale, the seller paid the buyer's agent. So while the seller made a lot of money and both agents earned significant commissions, the buyers was left unsuspectedly holding the bag. As a result, the buyers faced larger down payments, increased monthly mortgage payments, inflated lender fees due to the bigger loan amount, steeper property taxes, and higher home insurance premiums. This is a financial burden that will last the entire time they own the home. Just as significant, the lender wasn't told about the waiving of the home inspection and/or the home inspection contingency. They didn't know the buyer was purchasing the home as is. And because this wasn't disclosed, the lender could not accurately evaluate the potential risk of the loan. While there isn't a strict rule to disclose this type of information, it's certainly something investors should know about. If there's any doubt, just ask the investors directly. Buying a home as is definitely has financial risks for the buyer, and those risks can impact their financial situation, which could then affect the loan and ultimately the investor. There was too much deception, too much conflict of interest, and consequently too many financial uncertainties occurred. Given the potential seriousness of these issues, you will hear pushback from the real estate industry. They will try to downplay what happened or even argue that these situations didn't occur as described. However, the money paper trail is pretty clear. The seller paid the buyer's agent, so it is easy to see the conflict of interest, and as we all know, it's just human nature that your loyalty lies with the person who's paying you. So what should the buyer's agent have done? To start, this practice of asking buyers to waive anything should never have been an option. Therefore, the buyer's agent should have killed that demand by telling the seller and their agent, "That's a ludicrous demand and I have a duty to protect my client's interest, and this certainly isn't in their best interest." If this had occurred, this idiotic practice would have stopped and we would have seen normal negotiations happen, which would have kept house prices and buyers' cash outlays from spiraling out of control. It's pretty clear that when the seller pays the buyer's agent's commission, a major conflict of interest exists. This whole arrangement definitely should have been addressed ages ago. Someone in the industry should have stepped up and said, "This isn't right," and put an end to it. But apparently, the industry still isn't fully focused on what's best for their clients. They were hit with a huge lawsuit, costing them over $400 million. And still they're arguing that sellers should pay the buyer's agent. It appears that they don't mind having low ethical standards. It's a shame this whole seller pays buyer's agent thing wasn't fully addressed in the big National Association of Realtors lawsuits. Ironically, it was the sellers saying that house prices became inflated because of the commission fees they paid to the buyer's agent, when in reality, this whole unethical practice is what played the bigger role in those higher house prices. It makes you wonder if the wrong group filed those lawsuits against the NAR and their brokers. Here's something interesting to think about. Most likely those same sellers who won that big settlement against the real estate industry became buyers themselves later on and probably went through the exact same issues we've sharing here with you, causing one to wonder if the industry's financial troubles are really over, or if this is just the beginning of another round of class action lawsuits. Buyer options. Buyers have every right to be mad as hell about what happened. They put their trust in their agent to look out for them, and that trust was misplaced. It's clear their agents profited while they faced the financial weight placed upon them. It just might be time to hold the NAR and their agents accountable. So moving forward, buyers essentially have a couple of solid options to consider. Option 1. Use a real estate attorney instead of a traditional agent. Although attorneys aren't going to be the ones out there finding homes for you, you can absolutely handle that part on your own. They're absolutely the right people to handle the legal side of a real estate transaction, and as we know, there's a lot of complicated legal components involved in buying a house. Plus, attorneys are legally required to put their clients' interests first. You can be confident they won't have the same kind of conflict of interest issues. Option 2. If using a real estate agent, it would be prudent to have an attorney draft a buyer's service agreement instead of using their agreement. This agreement would outline an hourly rate for the agent, but also add an incentive. If the house is bought for less than the asking price, the agent gets an extra 7 to 10% of the price difference as a bonus. Crucially, the agreement should clearly state that this bonus is only for the buyer's agent and can't be shared with anyone else involved in the deal, either directly or indirectly, period. Adopting either of these options allows you to exercise more control over the transaction and effectively communicate your expectations to the real estate industry. As buyers are thinking about what to do next, they should be aware of an article dated August 24, 2022, published in the Navigate with NAR Realtors magazine. It details the litigation potential for agents when buyers waived home inspection contingencies. Yet instead of putting a stop to this practice, they simply wanted the buyers sign a separate legal document to protect the agents from liability. If any viewer feels inclined, you can leave a comment below and share your concerns with the real estate industry. It might prompt them to really consider these issues, or they might stick to their same old attitude and ignore your feedback, just like they ignored the seller's concerns. Fortunately, the sellers had the last word. The NAR agreed to pay them $400 million. We sincerely thank each viewer for your time and your patience, and hope this video was well worth your time.